is finally the video for this build. So in the new patch, you can now trigger ice crystals and spawn them by just shooting the target once. There is a cooldown of 1.5 seconds, however. Now that the developers did these changes to this gun is no longer useful to be used with crit, because the gun was so bad with elemental to the point I had to use crit on it. The way you build this gun now is full elemental, and we're gonna get into the build soon. Let's right click on the gun, click on details, and scroll down, click X on I keyword. Here it says it traps enemies within 4.5 meter radius and inflicts 30% psi intensity status damage per second for 4 seconds. Up to 2 frost vortexes may exist at any time. So your damage is dependent of your psi intensity, which you can easily get by upgrading your armor to 6 stars. This is your psi intensity, and 1 frost vortex tick is 30% of your psi intensity. So if you want to find out the damage, you just have to take this number and multiply it by 0.30 and you'll get your frost vortex damage. Then you take that frost vortex damage, you input status damage, frost elemental damage bonus, and frost vortex damage bonus. These are the multipliers that increase your frost vortex damage and your ice crystals damage. This build is completely elemental, so you'll need to focus on status damage and elemental damage. So now hitting a target generates an ice crystal. The cooldown is 1.5 seconds. We already know that, but every time you shoot, 1 ice crystal will spawn, and then another one will spawn if you just shatter the crystal every 1.5 seconds. So you actually don't have to shoot the target, you just have to damage it with anything. Ice crystals automatically shatter after 15 seconds if you don't shoot them. It will deal frost elemental status damage equal to 100 psi intensity to nearby targets. Frost vortex damage bonus applies, so it literally tells you what damage bonuses work for the crystals and everything else. So ice crystals can also be shattered by shooting them, which will increase the damage by 350% psi intensity. And the damage is going to be 60% lower to players. So players just have a basically default 60% damage reduction. Then you get frost elemental damage plus 30% just by equipping the gun. So when you hold it in your hands, and if you check in your inventory, you can see that your frost elemental damage is way higher than these. When you shatter crystals, you will get 8% frost elemental damage, which stacks 3 times. So you will get total of 54% elemental damage from the last 2 lines here. So to shatter crystals, you just need to shoot the target. Sometimes it will actually automatically shatter because it just spawns in front of you and you're already shooting at the target, so you don't really have to aim at it. But if it doesn't, you have to flick to it. And as you can see now, if we check our stats, we have 69.3. And if you remove the 24 here, you would have exactly 45.3 again. And if you remove the 30, you would have 15.3. So that's where the elemental damage is coming from. So now I made 2 presets for this. There's an abnormal increase preset, which is this here with a different calibration. And there is a precision charge, which changes the bottoms mod again with a different calibration. We'll get to this a little bit later, and I'll explain what this is. So let's start off with our mod on the gun, Vortex Multiplier. So why do you want to have Vortex Multiplier and not anything else? So Shattering Eyes for bossing, when you shoot the boss, you won't be really killing targets near the boss. Because what this mod does is when the enemy at the center of the Frost Vortex is defeated, you will deal half of your damage as Frost Vortex damage basically to enemies that is in 1 meter, which is very, very, very short. It's like literally in game 1 meter is this amount 0 1. There you go. That is the distance. So you will deal basically damage around this area, as well as you have to kill an enemy. So while you're bossing, best mod for this would be from Vortex Multiplier, because it lets you spawn a +1 Frost Vortex, which means you get to spawn 3 Frost Vortexes instead of 2, and you get Frost Vortex damage plus 10% as well. That boosts all of your Frost Vortex damage, which none of the other mods do actually. The only mod that does this is Cryo Blast, which gives you vulnerability +4 when you shoot a mob, but that's only +4%, which is not that much. It's also a new multiplier. It stacks with Bullseye, so if you mark with Bullseye, you get 16% from vulnerability, and then you get a 4% extra from this mod, but still, Vortex Multiplier beats in damage because you get extra proc. And also the way Frost Vortex works is if you have 3 Frost Vortexes like this, boom, 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 as you can see, it's only 3. Then if you spawn a new one, the old ones get refreshed and they get removed and a new one gets replaced instead of the old Frost Vortex. So You'll always have 3 if you're wearing the Vortex Multiplier mod. So basically that's it for the gun. For the helmet, you want to have Deviation Expert, and Deviation Expert, without a doubt, it gives you fire rate, which makes the gun shoot faster, which means more fire rate, more Frost Vortex procs, which means more damage. And then we get status damage 20%. That's also amazing. It will benefit our elemental damage as well. Really, for the helmet mods, there's nothing else you could use like these. All of these mods, like Work of Proficiency, I think that the devs need to like rework some of the helmet mods for elemental, because the only useful mod for the helmet is Deviation Expert or sometimes Elemental Havoc, but like most of the times 90% Deviation Expert is the best choice. For the mask, this is a new mod that has been replaced. Frost Construct is what you need for the mask. What it does is it increases your damage from ice spikes, ice missiles, ice crystals by 10%. And if the target is in Frost Vortex status, it deals extra 10%. So total 20%. So if there's no enemies, you get only 15%. And with Frost Construct, you get 20%. So that's 5% higher. So just stick with this mod here. For the gloves, we're going to jump into this a little bit later. And I'll explain why we're using status enhancement and not elemental overload. For the chest piece, you can use any mod you want. It doesn't matter at all because we are doing PvE anyways. So here's the full list of the mods. You can find them in my Discord. I have a full sheet of all the sheets in my Discord. So if you want to find the mod list, it will be there. Basically, head-on conflict is good for PvE because you get damage reduction by 20% if there's extra enemies. So just take whatever you want. Quick comeback is also good for PvE. When you pop a heal, you just get ammo refilled. Now for the shoes, you want to use Covered Advance because taking no damage for 4 seconds, it will give you a permanent damage boost, 20% for 30 seconds. And you can take as much damage as you want during these 30 seconds. As long as you don't take the damage within 4 seconds, you're good to go. There's no better mod than Covered Advance for the shoes, so for every build you use Covered Advance basically. And now on the pants, you can use Abnormal Increase. Now, why do we use Abnormal Increase? This only works with a gun that reloads fast. So we are going to use Calibration Rapid 2 times Elemental. What Rapid does is makes your gun reload faster. So the gun we are using has fire rate, and this is how fast it will shoot if it has fire rate. You can see it reloads pretty quickly. And that's it. That's how we use the gun. So if you use fire rate calibration, you will need Abnormal Increase, because you'll be able to stack up this effect very quickly. However, do note, you need to reload your ammo on 0. I don't really like this preset though. This might be better, like more suitable in groups or fights. However, when I was doing bosses solo, I felt like the other preset was better, which we will jump into right now. The other mod that you can put on your pants is Precision Charge. And if you do put Precision Charge, then you need to put heavy calibration on your gun. Now what heavy calibration does is it gives you magazine capacity 75%, but it decreases the reload speed. So you'll reload slower, you'll also shoot slower, but you'll have so many bullets, which means you get to shoot forever basically. But if you use this preset, then again, just remember, you will need to change the pants mod into Precision Charge. What this mod does is you just need to hit your shots in the head, and whenever you reload, you gain 24% elemental damage, which lasts for 10 seconds. It's personal preference which preset you use. Remember, if you use these presets, take a look at here what calibration you need to use. Now, why do we use status enhancement on the gloves and not elemental overload? If you take a look at elemental overload, it gives you 18% elemental damage. What's the difference between status and elemental? Nothing. They're both the same. It's just that status damage gives you 20% while elemental is only 18%. This happens with every build. If you take a look at this preset here, we have 222.5 status damage and 214 elemental damage. You want to have these two stats as balanced as possible. If one is going to be lower than the other, your damage will be lower. So if I removed the status enhancement mod here, and let's say I put elemental overload here, you can see now we have 202.5 status damage and 232 elemental. Let's jump into my calculator and show you what I mean. So as you can see, this is the one with elemental overload. This is the elemental damage, less status, and we're doing less damage over here, 3061. And here we're doing 3086. That's because the numbers are just balanced over here. Well, you get 2% more status damage here, but you just want to make sure status damage and elemental damage is equal. Say, for example, you put 170 status damage here and 150 elemental, and here you put 160, 160. This one will do more damage, even though these both are the same values. Okay, and now for the armor pieces, you want to stick with 4 shelter pieces. Snow camo gloves is the keyword armor, and 1 lone wolf shoes if you use this preset. This preset is just called abnormal increase. On the bottom you can see the name. And for this other preset, you can use renegade shoes because the calibration is heavy. You don't really need more ammo. You need to have a little bit more reload speed. Honestly though, it's all personal preference. Change the armor piece to whatever you want. You want Bastille? You want Lone Wolf to more magazine? All up to you, bro. It's not gonna increase your damage by 1 million, you know? It's not where the damage comes from. Play around with armor. Just remember 4 shelter pieces is all you really need, most importantly. Now, for the food buffs we use is hot dog. You just eat it, and that's it. You can also stack the food buffs with fire rate, sea, food, and oil. You eat the oil first, and then eat the hot dog. That's why my gun is able to shoot so fast in the video. A lot of people say I speed up my videos. I don't. You just don't know about the food buffs, my man. As a drink buff, you just need a whimsical drink for 44.5 status damage. That's it. You need to have a level 5 chef to get this buff. Otherwise, you will get a very low amount of status damage if you don't have level 5 chef and high mood. Then for the hide, you want to put on the mask is golden wool. You can see that our status damage is lacking like crazy. If I don't put the golden wool, then it's even worse. And the damage is not as great with precision charge as it is with abnormal increase. And you can see that how both of these stats are balanced. However, abnormal increase kind of sucks because you have to reload the gun on empty mag all the time, which means you always have to reload. So you will do more damage with abnormal increase, but it will be more annoying to use. While with precision charge, it will be a little bit more comfortable to use. And actually, even if it does a little bit less damage, I still recommend you guys to use the precision charge preset, which is this one. So in abnormal increase for the hides, you want to use lucky rabbit fur. If you don't know what golden wool does, it just basically fluctuates between weapon damage and status damage when you have it on. So if I click open in my inventory and just keep spamming C, you can see my status damage keeps changing, 139, 150. It's just fluctuating between weapon damage and between status damage. So it's always going to be 6% status, 6% weapon. But there's another hide that we can use, which is the Lucky Rabbit Fur. What this does is once you hit Frost Vortex, you get 10% elemental damage. It is not after scoring a crit, it's after you proc any elemental consecutive buff. So I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to unequip every single armor piece. So we have nothing equipped. And we have to, of course, equip the mask. Otherwise, how are we going to get the 10%? So 45.3, I'm going to shoot, trigger a lot of Frost Vortexes, and 55.3, you can see that it's increased by 10% over here on other elementals. So boom, that's what this does. And you want to use this only for that preset. Just check the preset, abnormal increase, precision charge. Now let's jump into the substats. So abnormal increase preset, the one that where you have so much fire rate, a lot of reload speed, but not so much ammo, then these are the substats you need to focus on. Elemental damage, status damage, damage against grey ones, and just go for magazine capacity if possible. That would be the god rolls for this build. If you don't want magazine capacity, then you can get elite enemies damage, so you just kill elites faster, but like it's not that worth it to go for that. So I would just recommend going for magazine capacity if you use this preset. If you use precision charge preset, which will be heavy calibration, which will give you a lot of ammo, but reload speed is going to be slow and the fire rate is going to be not as fast. So then you just want to have reload speed bonus on this. For every preset, you want to focus on elemental damage, status damage, damage against grey ones. Now, for the food buff hot dog, it actually goes into the same multiplier as damage to grey ones, damage to elites, and damage to normal enemies. So it will give you 27.6 here if you have level 5 chef and if you are using normal meat. If you use pristine though, then of course it will be 31.6, but you want to use normal because pristine is very expensive. Of course, for the secondary weapon, you want to have bolt pulling speed calibration on it. Weak spot or elemental or crit rate doesn't matter. Just put a rapid shot on it. Just take out your bingo. Boom, 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 boom. You're good to go. You only need to shoot 3 times in the head, by the way. You don't have to shoot 5 times, but you just swap to bingo like this. Shoot one and melt the target down. That will just mark the target for you, which gives you extra damage boost. As you can see, bingo, after you swap to this weapon, the first hit will trigger bullseye, so that's all you need to do for PvE when you boss. Now for the Cradle that we use for these presets, you need to have Anti-Void, Tactical Combo, Status Enhancement, Deviation Master, Sustain Suppression, Steady Hand, Frost Sense, and Bounty Hunter. These two will be important because you will be using bingo to mark the target. If you don't use bingo, then you don't have to have these, but I mean, there's nothing else to put in your Cradle spots, so just put these two and start using the bingo, boy, because you're gonna be doing a lot of damage, you know? Anyways, these are not important. You don't need sniper damage, you just need to have the rifle. If you want though, you could be putting this, but for the accessories, for the M4, we use Hammer Compensator. This gun is actually very accurate, so you don't really need a laser with accuracy, you can just go with stability. You can go full in with stability, max that thing out, put this sight as well, put this one as well. So these are the mods for max stability. Like the gun barely kicks and the gun is still accurate actually. But if you don't like this and if you feel like the gun is missing, then just put these mods like this. Or you can actually put this laser sight here. And then up to you if you want to use this sight or this. Personally, I like this hollow sight. It feels really good. And there you go. As for the deviations, just stick with Polar Jelly, man. I tested the Snow Sprite, it didn't go as well. The only problem with Jellyfish is you have to throw it around, but like, you don't necessarily have to do this and throw the Jellyfish. All you can do is roll to the boss, boom, 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 summon it like this, roll away, and start melting the target. It depends how you play the game, but trust me, the Jellyfish is the best one. Do not use the Snow Sprite, you will regret it. Okay, and lastly, there is Frost Vortex suffixes, right? The Frost Vortex suffix will deal more damage if you put it on your weapon and mask. However, it has to be gold. So Frost Vortex has to be gold, Frost damage has to be gold, and damage against gray ones has to be gold. The trigger chance is completely useless because it is based off your weapon's chance. The weapon's base chance is 15%, so if you have 12% on 15%, that's going to give you only a 1.8% trigger chance increase. A total of 16.8% Frost Vortex trigger chance, which is trash! But yeah, these suffixes will do more damage if you have this, and damage against gray ones, all 3 gold. The last substat could be green. The frost damage is just 6% elemental damage. Just imagine it as elemental damage. Instead of 8%, you get 6%. And this is the damage with 7 talents. Maxed out. 25 Frost Vortex damage here. And this is the damage with Frost Vortex suffixes on both weapon and mask. It's gonna do 300 damage more, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below what you want to see next for 1-2-minute videos, what builds you want to see next, and of course, you can join my Discord if you have any questions and suggestions. So I'll see you there. And as always, catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.
I'm that 187 bringer, call me that tombstone slinger. Yeah, I'm right.